specifically in all your years, kind of watching and studying him, what are some things you kind of incorporated?
Yeah, obviously one of the big things is the culture and the energy that coach has always talked about. And from an outside perspective, being around a lot of different coaches, you always wonder, hey, is that thing real? Is the juice real? Is what he's talking about real? And then you sit in here on day one of meetings and you realize how real it is. And you realize how and why he's had the success that he's had in his career.
With your title, I guess, what does that mean? You kind of oversee, or what you do, or how does that?
That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that one out through HR. No, I think I'm just trying to really be the best assistant I can be, to be here to be a resource for Clint. He and I go back obviously through our days at Chicago. Be a great resource for him, help in the back end where I can, and really in the back seven with the backers and the safeties and the nickels and the corners, and try to provide as much support as I can to the coaching staff.
Does that create challenges when you're trying to fit a player that has such unique skills into your defense, and how do you think you maximize that skill set?
Yeah, I don't think challenges is the right word, to be honest. I think it's excitement. I think it creates excitement to be able to work with a special talent like that, and that's kind of what I prefer to hang my hat on. To be able to work with unique guys and put guys in position to go make plays and optimize their talent. That's what coaching is, right? You got to take the best out of each individual and make them the best that they can be, and that's what we're going to look to do with Jamal and really all the guys back there.
Sean, has there been an example of that, in your career in the past, like a guy you were able to really maximize what he does best, maybe in a unique way?
I think we've had some success over my time, through Chicago and even from Temple to Miami and Boston College where I worked at, where we've had some success with different guys. I guess a good recent example would be like Robert Quinn. Who's had a lot of sustained success in a 4-3 defense, and a lot of people kind of thought that he was past his prime, a couple years ago, and then he had a really high-level year for us as an outside backer. Eddie Jackson's got a unique skill set. We were able to play multiple spots with him, from the nickel spot to a safety spot to a dime spot. And so, you're able to just try to identify the traits that will help each individual be successful, and then figure out how that can fit into your scheming philosophies.
What are some of the hallmarks of the Vic Fangio defense that you think are going to be imprinted on this defense?
Well, I think, one thing, that's a great question. I understand the question. But, one thing that we got to understand, this is still the Pete Carroll, Clint Hurt defense that we're going to be seeing in 2022. They're going to have their stamps on it, as they should. They've both earned that right, and especially Clint has earned that right. And so this is going to be a lot of that. And, there's some flavors that we'll be able to bring in from my past experiences, and obviously Clint's been with Vic also, that we'll be able to bring in some different philosophies and some different ways of doing things schematically. But you should be able to identify, a Clint Hurt-led defense this year.
What are some things you learned? You mentioned Jamal, but with Jamal and Quandre, kind of a unique combination there, obviously a veteran combination there. What have you seen just kind of studying them, and then obviously getting them in the building the last week or two to get
studying them, the one thing you can really tell is they're football players. That's one thing I think sometimes we undervalue. Guys, good football players. And those two are good football players. And they've got a lot of demonstrated success at a lot of different roles throughout their careers. So I'm talking from college into the NFL. And then being with them these last couple of weeks, you see why they're good football players. Their passion for the game, their passion and eagerness to learn. And that was one of the first things I asked through the process of coming here. I asked Clint and Coach about the type of guys that we had on the team. Are these guys going to want to learn? Are they going to be checked out? Because that's important to me. I pride myself on teaching, and I want guys that want to learn, because we're going to teach them at a high level and then expect them to execute at that same level.
Your approach to that?
To me, it's about bringing information down that's relatable to the player. We got to try to make some complex things simple, but they got to understand the depth of it. And you got to open their eyes and their ears and give them different looks and try to relate to them so they understand the information you're trying to get to them, and then give them the why. I don't think you can get message across without giving them the why.
What have you seen out of the two rookie quarterbacks?
Say again?
The two rookie quarterbacks.
Well, you see some length and speed out of both those guys, and they're unique in their own ways. Kobe's got really good ball skills at the top of routes, and he can really judge the ball well. Tariq, obviously, his length shows up in so many ways. When he's pressed, when he's off, when he's playing the ball in a chase, in a trail position. So I think those guys are so eager and there's so much growth potential for them, which is another exciting thing.
How did you get a PhD in education?
I mean, the how part's the easy part, right? I mean, you know how to do it. You take the classes, that they tell you to take, and then you do the work. I mean, that's really what it was. You know, it was, I went to school to get my doctorate. And coaching at that point in my life, I didn't know how real of a possibility that was going to be. And fortunately, it became a real possibility for me, but I was going there to get my doctorate. So that was a kind of a non-negotiable, that you got to do the work, right? Just like, you know, people ask you, how do you coach those long hours and everything? You just do it. You're passionate about it, and you put in the work, and it doesn't feel as long as it is. And so you get organized. You know, you wake up at 3 a.m. and you work till 7. You work football from 7 to 7, and then from 7 to midnight or 11, you do academics again. And that's your cycle, and that was the cycle for 3 years. But I think that's really helped me in my coaching career, and I know it's helped me in my academic side of it.
Did you have in-class sessions that you had to change, or your instructor had to move around your coaching?
No, you know, and that was the great thing. Al Golden was the head coach at that time. Most graduate classes are in the afternoons, and so no, you know, and I was a full-time student, right? So I didn't take the full-time load of most grad students of 3 classes, because you know, my work was football. So I took 5 to 6 classes a semester, and as long as the schedule on the calendar fit, I took those classes and just grinded it out. And I knew I didn't want to prolong it and be a 5-6 year doctoral student guy. I wanted to get it as efficiently as I could.
You said your coaching also.
I mean, it's education based. I think coaching is one of the highest forms of education and teaching. You just get to do it on a different surface, you know, and so with that education background, I think it's really helped my perspective and how I approach players and how I approach even the game and the way I look at the game.
Sean, what did you learn in the time as DC in Chicago that was different than the previous roles you had?
Wow, I got a laundry list of things. But one of the things you learn is it's always easy when you're not in that role to say what you would do in that role. And I had the opportunity for a lot of years to do that, right? And everybody does that because you want to grow. But then when you get in the role, you understand the whys behind of why you had to act certain ways in terms of leadership, how you got to communicate. And really your job is to lead the coaches and the players. And you got to make sure everybody's aligned towards the vision and the outcome that you want to be aligned towards. And so that was a great experience, is to be able to try to get all those guys on that same page. We had pretty much a whole new defensive staff that we were trying to teach our defense to, and then getting them to buy in, and they did a great job. All those guys are great coaches, and then getting that formula passed on to the players.
Was there anything that was like, oh, I want to do that, and then when you got in there, it was like, oh, that just doesn't work?
Yeah, you know, I think there's some things schematically that you always got to approach from a bigger lens, because, you know, when you're in your position coach lens, you look at the scheme from your perspective. You're 3, 4, 5 guys, whoever you're coaching. But when you're in the other lens, you're looking from an all-11 perspective. And not only can your players do it, does it fit their players, but does it fit their traits? Does it fit what they're good at? And how does it help the rest of the scheme? So you're really trying to think on a bigger picture of how the whole package comes together.
Did you have a goal other than coaching when you first went to college and started, you know, getting into advanced classes and stuff like that? Was there something else you wanted to do?
Yeah. So I started at college pre-med, and I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon, and that shifted into education, and that's when I decided I was going to go be a professor and kind of enter through the academic ranks and try to grow there. And then while at Temple is when I had the opportunity to become a GA, and it kind of worked out at the same time where I was getting my degree, and the head coach there, again, Al Golden was the head coach at the time, gave me some opportunities to keep growing. And then it became real that coaching was a viable option. And we since then, me and my wife just decided that we'll stick with it until somebody kicks me out.
Did you go to Golden, or did he go to you? How did you get into that GA?
Oh, so I went to Temple in the fall of 2005. That was the old regime. Coach Bobby Wallace was there, and they had got fired. Al got hired in December of that year. And so when I was at Columbia, man, you guys got to read up on me a little bit. I've said this story so many times. No, when I was at Columbia, a guy named Mike Saravo was a guy on that staff, and I shadowed their football program. And Al had hired Mike as one of his first hires as a recruiting coordinator. So I emailed Mike and said, hey, I'm on campus already. Can I come volunteer? And it was Christmas break, and I just helped volunteer their recruiting stuff, mailers at that time. And then they kind of knew where I was going, and they needed an academic GA, and then the rest is kind of history.